Well, my friends, I have not made a video in quite some time. I got COVID, and then right after I got over that, I broke my ankle, and honestly, I was having trouble finding the motivation, but I'm back, baby, so let's do this. How did I break my ankle? Well, I'm glad you asked. I was walking down the street, I saw this puppy in the middle of the road, and I saw this car coming, and that didn't happen. I was playing kickball with some people from my church randomly, and I went for a pop fly. I rolled my ankle, heard it pop, and that was that. But that is not what we're here today for. We're going to be talking about the TonePros Roller Bridge. Now we're going back to the Les Paul, as you can see behind me. It is a 2011 Gibson Les Paul Goldtop traditional. I think I got all that right. And I've got a lot of videos about it. I got it from a guy named Chris Raitt, who plays for Kelsey Ballerini and some people, which is kind of cool. But anyway, I was looking to, do some upgrades to it. So it did not come with a Bigsby, for example. That's something that I installed, and I did some more modifications, because what else are you going to do with a new guitar? Some of those other modifications included installing Faber insert post and installing a Faber bridge. In my case, the bridge was an ABR-1 style on Nashville's spaced post. Now I actually have another Les Paul. It's an Epiphone with a Bigsby and of course a Tune-o-matic style bridge, and I've never had any tuning issues with that setup. But with this Gibson, for whatever reason, with the Bigsby, I had some tuning issues with the Faber bridge. And it wasn't getting way out of tune, it was just a couple of cents, but I found myself staring at my tuner a lot, and me and my OCD self, I just couldn't take it, and I had to at least try a roller bridge. Enter the TonePros Roller Bridge. Now this bridge caught my attention because it's essentially a Tune-o-matic or ABR-1 or Nashville bridge, but it just has rollers for saddles. I got mine from Reverb for about $50. TonePros sells them for around $90, I think, and StewMac sells them for like $100. So I would look at Reverb if I were you. If you were looking to get one of these things, you're probably going to get a better deal there. I had also noticed this bridge on a lot of Veritas guitars. If you're not familiar with them, they are a boutique company. They used to be out of Vancouver, Washington, and now I believe they're out of Tennessee. But if you play worship music, you've probably seen or know about some of these guitars. Like a lot of Bethel players, like David Hislop, for example, plays Veritas guitars. And also, in fact, Chris Raitt, who I got this Les Paul from, is endorsed by Veritas. But anyway, I figure if they have this TonePros bridge on their guitars, and most of their guitars actually have Bigsby's on them, I figure if they're going to use this kind of bridge, then it must be pretty good, right? It must be up to par and pretty professional. So a little bit about the bridge. It's pretty straightforward. It comes with the bridge, of course, it comes with the post, and it comes with a little Allen wrench to tighten down the set screw onto the post to lock the bridge on the post. The bridge itself is made out of Zamic metal. Now, I don't exactly know what that is. I think it's a conglomeration of some copper and some aluminum and some steel. I don't know. Which sounds kind of like pot metal, which is what cheaper import metal bridges are made out of. But Zamic, if I understand correctly, is what was used on the vintage Gibson Les Pauls for those original ABR-1s. So if you're looking for vintage tone, it doesn't get much better than Zamic, apparently. The posts are made out of brass, which is also highly coveted in the vintage world, and the rollers are made out of steel. Now in a second, I'm going to cut to some footage showing you my experience changing out the bridge. I'm also going to show you a little comparison between the TonePros bridge, a Faber bridge, and a Gibson ABR-1 bridge, as far as the dimensions and the aesthetics. Now I talk about this a little bit, but I wanted to confirm that I did not actually use the TonePros post. I stuck with the Faber post that I had already swapped out for the Gibson post. So that's probably good news for folks who want to, utilize the Faber upgrade post, which are directly mounted, basically hammered into the body of the guitar for like ultimate sustainability and transfer of tone. That's something that I was curious about, whether or not I was going to have to kind of forego and ditch those upgraded posts in lieu of the TonePros post. But in fact, it fit really tightly, and I didn't even have to tighten the set screw on the post. And it's really has a good foundation to where the bridge doesn't really move at all, and the strings just move back and forth on the rollers. All right, since I've got these two bridges handy and off of the guitar, I thought it would be a good time to compare the two. The main difference, as you can see, is the width of the two. This is a Faber one on the right, as you can see here. Faber Germany, but it came from Faber USA, Larry Corsa. And I don't have the exact model number, but it's essentially an ABR-1 size and spec for Nashville post spacing. And I do have quite an extensive video or videos on this bridge, so you can reference that, and I'll have the links to that in the video somewhere. And then this, of course, is the TonePros Roller Bridge, and it's a little bit fatter. It's more of a traditional Nashville style. I like this vintage kind of less is more thing. I don't really like the thickness of this one, but you know, it is what it is, no big deal. And by the way, I have this one available. This is an actual ABR-1 bridge. Here you go, Gibson ABR-1. It has brass saddles, so brass and no coating. This was on my guitar before. The previous owner or someone that he had do it drilled out the holes or made the spacing to fit Nashville spacing post. So anyway, that's a little comparison. Otherwise, you know, it's just basic ABR-1 or Tune-O-Matic style bridge, your intonation screws. Of course, this one has the set screw to lock the bridge in place. So it has the, I'll bring those over here. It has these smooth shafts or post, and the set screw tightens down on that and locks the bridge in place, so it has stability. So that's a little comparison. Also, while we're at it, this is the TonePros shaft or post. I don't know exactly what to call these. And here is my original one, well, the one that came with the guitar. And you can tell, maybe you can tell in this light, the one that came with the guitar, which I think is, you know, original to the guitar in a Gibson product, is this one, and I believe it's chrome plated. This one has a different color, and it's nickel plated, I believe. So a slight difference in color. You know, some people do the drop test. I don't really hear a difference. So here's this one, TonePros. And then here's the Gibson. I want to say that TonePros is a little bit higher pitch, but I think we're splitting hairs here. But I will say that me personally, I like nickel better. It ages, you know, more naturally, in my opinion. It gives you a patina or kind of a tarnish over time. You know, it's more vintage correct, but chrome is great too. It doesn't really wear and stays shiny. So just a little 2 cents there. Here's a tip that I learned from a guy on YouTube that I thought was pretty brilliant. If you are putting a fresh bridge on your guitar and you're just guessing at the intonation distances, what you can do is take a Sharpie, as I have here, and just mark the top of the strings where they rest on top of the bridge. Now, you may keep the strings, you want to get rid of them because they have a mark on them. But I thought it was pretty brilliant that at least you could have some kind of really precise indication of where the saddles should go, and will get you very close in the ballpark of where the intonation should be right off the bat. So here's the test. This is the TonePros bridge. I'm going to put this on these posts, and hopefully it fits on there. Yes, it does, or it looks like it will. I got to get the strings out of the way. But one thing I did want to point out, you know, I could keep these Faber posts. If you're familiar with these are essentially hammered down into the body of the guitar. They are not easy to get out. I have done it, but I'm not looking forward to that. What I don't want to do is put a set screw onto these posts here that are threaded, because that's going to really, you know, gnarl up those threads if you've got a set screw poking on those, you know, from one side. So I really don't want to do that. It's going to interfere with the thumb wheel being able to move freely on the post. So I think we're going to have to put in the TonePros post to really experience the bridge as it should be. But for the time being, I'm going to put it on and, like I say, get the intonation roughly where it should be. And then I might even put the strings on at full tension and play around and see if it holds tune. I guess if it does, then I could keep it, but I don't know if I would get the full functionality and the benefit of the locking mechanism if I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and say now that I probably will go the full route and do it the right way eventually. One thing I didn't do when I put this on the first time was make sure that those set screws for locking it were actually all the way out and they weren't interfering, you know, with it moving down the post. I did verify that, but you know, I really think that this thing is a tight enough fit that maybe, just maybe, I won't need to change out the post. It'll be tight enough where it will essentially be locked. I don't know, I'm gonna mess around with it and see, but let me move these strings out of the way and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I mean here. I just got the strings resting. They're super loose. They're not really pushing down on the bridge at all, as you can see. But this thing is like, it seems to be rock solid. It's not moving at all on the post. Maybe a little bit. Yep, I was wrong. There's a tiny bit of play there. If I really move it around ever so slightly. but it's actually a lot tighter than the Faber bridge was on the Faber post. There's also a difference, of course, with these Nashville style cup, posts. And if you can hear it, that post moves around in the little cup or the insert that it goes into. There's some play there where there is no play on this post other than kind of the cantilever action that happens from the bottom to the top. So again, I'm going to play around with this and see if I can get it to stay in tune on these posts. And if I can, then I may just say leave it like it is. These are supposed to be the superior posts, kind of a direct line of action from top to bottom. It's all one stable piece inserted into the body. We'll see. So once I got this thing installed, I noticed something a little strange. I was bending the high E string towards the end of the fretboard, and I noticed a little buzzing or rattling. Something was a little out of place. And upon further inspection, I looked, and as I was bending the string, the roller on the high E saddle was moving quite a bit, a lot more than I thought it should be. And so I'm going to show you some clips of that closer in footage, and you can kind of see and hear what's going on with that. So once I noticed this issue, it was pretty much going to be a deal breaker for me. I wasn't going to compromise having a rattly saddle on my nice Les Paul. Benefits of tuning or not, if the bridge wasn't stable enough for me to bend a string like normal, then I just wasn't going to have it. So I reached out to the seller on Reverb and I presented the problem to him, and he instantly said, you can have a refund. I offered to maybe send it back for a swap or something. He said, don't worry about it. You can have your money back. So I basically got this thing for free. However, it was still going to be a problem, and I wasn't going to use it unless I could figure out how to fix it. So my next step was to reach out to TonePros. I sent them an email, and I even said that I had video evidence of what was going on. I was looking for them to maybe tell me a solution, a fix that I could do myself. Maybe I could send it in for them to look at or to swap out. I didn't have my hopes set high, but what I didn't expect is for them to not answer my email. I sent this email maybe on a Friday and didn't hear anything the next week. And then I sent them another email, and I still haven't heard anything back unless for some reason it got lost in my junk mail folder and I didn't see it. So I'm not saying that TonePros has terrible customer service or that they're a bad company or anything. I just want to be forthcoming with my experience in dealing directly with them. So because I didn't hear back from TonePros, I decided to take matters into my own hands and try to swap out the saddles or do anything that I could to remedy the situation. And that's what I'm going to show you now. But before I do, you're probably wondering if there's any tone difference between the TonePros Bridge, the Faber Bridge, and the Gibson ABR-1. I'm gonna have to say that I can't really tell any difference at all. I don't really notice any more or less sustain. I don't notice any real change in the frequency of the notes. I can't say that I've had a lot of time yet with the TonePros Bridge. And if you're interested, maybe I can make a video comparing them, back to back. I'm just gonna say flat out, in my experience so far, I don't really notice any difference in the tone. Okay, here's the bridge, and I showed you the issue I was having. This saddle right here is the high E string. So of course I could turn it around like this and have these screws facing the butt end of the guitar. But that's not the traditional way to do it, and I'm not really looking to compromise. I just want to get it right. So I'm going to try to show you. I took the bridge off so I could get an idea of if this one was actually loose or looser than the other ones. And I don't know if I can do this with just one hand, and hopefully you can hear these, but they're all a little loose. So here's the high E string. And we'll just go down the line here. But what I do want to show you, if I can, I just got a white background here on the computer, and okay, I think you're going to be able to see this. So if I kind of push down on this high E saddle, see how it kind of moves up. So like the end of it moves up, and the other ones don't necessarily do that. I'm pushing down the same on these guys, and they don't do that. So in other words, they they move this direction. All of them do a little bit, but that rocking this way, the high E string is the culprit. It has the most give in that sort of plane or axis, if you will. So what I'm going to try to do is swap these. I think the D string saddle is actually the most stable. You know, it could be any one of these. I'm gonna try, because like I said, I can't get any response from TonePros, and I can't find where anybody else has done this. But I have heard of somebody on YouTube who accidentally popped one out and they were able to pop it back in. So I know it can be done, or theoretically it can. So that's what I'm gonna try. We'll see how that goes. All right, this is all gonna be trial and error because I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna try it out, try what I think is possible, and that is just to sort of get some leverage on one of these rollers and pop it out. What I don't want to do is have it go flying somewhere, but I don't know. I'm just gonna, all right, that was pretty easy. So that came out and I didn't lose it. So let's try the E string. And there we go. The pen went somewhere else down in the hole there. So now I am going to put this high E roller and pen back in place, and I guess I'm just gonna push it down and hopefully it goes in there. I guess worst case I can get some kind of mallet or something and press it in that way. I don't know, it sounds dangerous. Of course this thing is basically free, but you know, so if I screw this up, it's not like I paid for it. I don't want to screw it up needlessly. This one's not really going in there very well, so it looks like, yeah, so it looks like this guy is in there, the high E, but this one is not going in. So I'm just gonna, I guess, mess around with it a little bit more. I'm sorry if I can't capture all of this. These are tiny parts. It's hard to get my fingers out of the way, so that's not gonna work. Okay. So it's not really going in by the force of my hand. I guess I'm just gonna try to beat on it with something. When in doubt, or when all else fails, just use mechanical agitation. Okay, what I decided to do was to, well, I took the G string roller out and tried to swap it with the D string roller, and it still didn't fit in there. At least the little shaft portion didn't. So now I'm gonna take the original G string shaft, I don't know what you call this thing that the roller sits in. I'm gonna move it back, but it still has the faulty or loose roller on it that was here. And so essentially, instead of swapping the whole little assembly, I'm just swapping the roller itself. I'm not swapping the rod or the shaft or the axle, whatever you want to call it, that the roller rolls around on. And so this should work. And then a true test will be, of course, to try it out on the guitar to see if I have the same issue. Okay, so everything's swapped now and nothing's falling out. It doesn't take much when they fit right. It doesn't take much to push them in there, and it really didn't take much at all to kind of pry it out either. So that's the information I was looking for this whole time, trying to figure out if I could do that without breaking it. And so I just had to try it myself, and in fact it did work. You can pop these out pretty easily. So now I'm just going to try it back out on the guitar and see if I have that issue again with the high E string. Okay, here's the swapped saddle. I swapped the D and the high E saddles, and I'm just going to play the note I was playing before. So it's definitely not making the same noise or as bad of a noise as it was. You can hear it though when it moves a little bit, like when it kind of, I think the bottom of the saddle or the bottom of the roller hits the bar or kind of the axle, whatever. When that bottom tilts a little bit, it hits it, and there's a little bit of a sizzle vibration sound, if you can hear it. Let's see. Right there. But you're not going to hear that through an amplifier or an amplified sound, I don't believe. I doubt you would ever hear that. You're only going to hear it when it's kind of acoustic or unplugged. And by the way, what does make me feel a little bit better is that I was playing the Bohemian Rhapsody solo when I noticed this, but I don't notice it the same way as I did. So you know, that was a note. So, you know, it's a little bit still there. but it's not as bad. All right, I thought of something else to try. I am gonna try to swap out the high and low E string saddles. I can't swap out just any of them because this thing is radiused, right? For a 12-inch radius neck, which is what a Les Paul is. So the fact is, at least I believe that some of these saddles have to be taller. And so I've got these E string ones out. This is the high over here and this is the low. So I'm gonna swap the saddles. What I did find that was interesting, I'm learning more about this TonePros Bridge all the time. Make it up here, forget my mess. There are a number of retaining wires. Oh, let me go this way. In there, if you can see those retaining wires. And there's not just one, there's like multiple, and they kind of interweave in between. So I don't really know the arrangement there or why they're like that. They must serve some purpose for the way this is set up. But I just noticed that. I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize there was a retaining wire in here. ABR-1 bridge, of course, has that sort of annoying retaining wire going over the top of the screws that, you know, control the intonation of the saddles. Sometimes that causes buzzing, but anyway, this has retaining wires on the underneath side in that area there, if you can see it. Just something to note. Well, I think that did it. Again, I swapped out the two E string saddles, the low and the high, completely took the saddles out. And so now if I play that same note, the roller may be moving, but I do not hear it. I don't hear it clicking like it was at all. Same bend, same note. A little caveat, I broke a string. I broke the high E string when I was messing around, so I had to put completely new strings on here. I am 100% certain that the string was not at fault, so that I don't think that was an issue. I think we can take that out of the equation, so that's kind of a no, never mind. But just so you know, I did change strings in between all this. I can't really see it moving like I did either. So that's great. I mean, the bad thing is if you get one of these and both of your, say, high E strings are both like your B and your A string or whatever, if they're both bad, then you can't swap them out. And again, the high E string will be the one that's most susceptible to something like this. Yeah, so the way it is now, the way I got it set up, a little bit of a fix, and it's good as gold, I think. I mean, I don't see any other problems with the bridge like it is. So anyway, that is my experience. Hope it helped you out. Hey, it's me. So I realized I never really addressed the whole purpose of me buying this TonePros Bridge in the first place, which was for tuning stability. I will say that it is significantly better than the Faber ABR-1 style that I took off the guitar in that regard. I don't think there's a perfect Bigsby setup out there that exists. I mean, it's not like a Floyd Rose where you have locking tuners and you're doing dive bombs. It's more of a raising and lowering of the pitch for a warble effect. So if you're going to extremes with a Bigsby, I think you're gonna have tuning issues no matter what. Now I have this Epiphone Les Paul that I've had for a long time, and it has the original metric Epiphone Tune-O-Matic style bridge on it. I will say that the saddles on this guitar are a lot deeper than the Faber ones, which are pretty shallow. Whether or not that has an effect or that makes a difference, I'm not sure. But I just wanted to wrap this up, share with you my experience. I hope it helps you out, and we'll see you in the next one.